Pay the rent or get out of my house, Christopher Anderson yelled at me from across the kitchen table, slamming his laptop shut for emphasis. I looked at him calmly, hiding a smile. He had no idea this house was mine, and that I had secretly sold it for $750,000. When it came time for them to move out, he panicked and called my number. My answer shattered his world. My name is Theodore Williams, but everyone calls me Ted. I'm 67 years old, and I built this house in Tampa, Florida, with my own hands 30 years ago. Every beam, every joint, every square foot came from my sweat and skill. What happened next was just revenge for the betrayal of people I loved and trusted. I pushed through the front door that evening, grocery bags cutting into my palms. The weight felt substantial. I'd bought the good ribeye steaks, fresh Gulf shrimp, everything Christopher had been hinting about wanting. Small offerings, trying to keep peace in what used to be my sanctuary. The living room stopped me cold. My leather recliner, where I'd watched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win their first Super Bowl, sat crammed against the wall facing nothing. The mantel where Patricia's photo used to smile down was bare except for Christopher's motivational posters. Digital success starts here and influence your income. My fishing trophies from 40 years of weekend tournaments were gone, boxed up somewhere like junk. Christopher's massive desk commanded the center of the room now, complete with ring lights, multiple monitors, and camera equipment. My living room had become his content creation studio. This was the space where Patricia and I used to sit together in the evenings, her reading romance novels while I sketched building plans. Now it looked like a tech showroom. Worse yet, I could see through the window that my garage workshop, my sanctuary for 3 decades, had been completely transformed. The workbench where I'd taught Michelle to use power tools was gone. My collection of vintage hand planes, some inherited from my father, were nowhere to be seen. Instead, I glimpsed Christopher's exercise equipment and more computer gear. I got everything for tonight, I said, setting bags on the counter. Those ribeyes you mentioned, Christopher, and that craft beer you like. Michelle glanced up from her laptop at the kitchen table, eyes sliding past me like I was furniture. Not even a hello anymore. Just that brief, dismissive look before returning to whatever social media crisis needed her attention. You got the wrong seasoning again, she said without looking up. I specifically said the Cajun blend. I pulled out the seasoning, examined the label. McCormick's Cajun seasoning, exactly what she'd written on the shopping list. I thought this was what you asked for. It's fine. Whatever. Her fingers kept typing, probably responding to comments on Christopher's latest video about financial freedom through digital marketing. I began unpacking slowly, organizing items on the counter. The steaks, wrapped in butcher paper from the good meat market, fresh corn still in the husk, a 6-pack of that $18 craft IPA Christopher drinks like water. My hands trembled slightly, not from age, just the lingering tension from this afternoon's appointment with Jonathan Mitchell, my attorney. The wheels were in motion now, but I'd keep that to myself. Tonight was about maintaining the facade, about playing the role of grateful houseguest in my own home. Christopher emerged from my former garage workshop, wiping his hands on a towel. He saw me and released one of his trademark heavy sighs, the kind that said my very existence was an inconvenience. Ted, we need to talk. Of course, I folded the empty grocery bag with practiced calm. Let me just finish putting these away. I'll fire up the grill in a few minutes. Now, Ted, this is important. I turned to face him, reading his expression. Rehearsed, confident. Whatever this was, he'd been planning it, probably discussing it with Michelle during one of their late-night strategy sessions. All right. Should I start marinating the steaks first? Don't bother with dinner right now. The dismissal stung. I'd been looking forward to grilling, to doing something that felt normal in this house that no longer felt like home. I left the groceries half unpacked and followed him to the dining room. Michelle closed her laptop and joined us, her face carefully neutral. They'd definitely coordinated this. The realization settled in my chest like a stone. I'll get dinner going in a bit, I said, trying to salvage some semblance of normal family interaction. After we talk, Christopher said firmly. So I sat down at my own dining room table, in the chair I'd been relegated to, not the head where I'd sat for 30 years, but one of the side chairs. Christopher remained standing, posture straight, hands clasped behind his back like he was giving a sales presentation. Ted, this living situation isn't working anymore. You're here rent-free, using our utilities, taking up space that we need. Starting next month, we need $200 in monthly rent. Or you need to find your own place." The words hung in the air like smoke from a grease fire. I set down the fork I'd been fidgeting with, the small clink against the plate unnaturally loud in the sudden silence. "This is my house," I said quietly, keeping my voice steady. "I designed every room. I built it with my own hands over 2 years. Actually, we all live here now." Christopher's voice carried that patient tone people use when explaining obvious things to slow children. "And we all need to contribute to the household expenses." I turned to Michelle, searching her face for some sign of the daughter who used to help me in the workshop, who learned to use a circular saw when she was 16. "Michelle, you agree with this?" Her eyes finally met mine, and what I saw there hurt more than Christopher's ultimatum. Distance. Resolve. The little girl who used to sit on my shoulders while I framed walls had become a stranger. "Dad, we have expenses too. Christopher's business is really taking off, but we need help with the mortgage payments. It's only fair. Fair." The word tasted like sawdust in my mouth. "We're adults now, Dad." "This is just business," Michelle said, her words cutting deeper than any saw blade ever had. Business. My daughter, who I'd carried on my shoulders while framing the very walls around us, was reducing our relationship to a transaction. The same daughter who used to help me organize my socket wrenches and knew the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead before she could ride a bike. Christopher leaned forward, palms flat on the table like he was closing a deal. "So what's your answer, Ted?" The dining room pressed in around me. This was the table where we'd celebrated Michelle's high school graduation, where she'd told Patricia and me she was getting married, where I'd sat alone after Patricia's funeral, too broken to eat the casseroles neighbors brought. My table, in my house, where my own daughter was now charging me rent. "I need to think about this," I managed, my voice sounding older than my 67 years. "You have until Friday," Christopher straightened, satisfied with his performance. $200 monthly or start apartment hunting. Tampa's got plenty of senior-friendly places. Senior-friendly places. Like I was some doddering old man who needed assistance getting dressed. The chair scraped against the hardwood floors I'd installed myself as I stood, gripping the table edge until my knuckles went white. Both of them watched me, Christopher with that business-like patience he probably learned in some online marketing course, Michelle still unable to hold my gaze for more than a second. I walked toward the kitchen, where those ribeye steaks still sat on the counter, waiting to be grilled for a family dinner that would never happen. Behind me I heard Christopher's chair scrape as he returned to his office, my former garage workshop where I'd spent countless peaceful hours restoring antique tools and building furniture for the house. That night, I lay in Michelle's old bedroom, staring at ceiling cracks I'd memorized during months of sleepless nights. This room, with its window seat where she'd read Nancy Drew mysteries, was now my exile. The walls still held faint marks where her soccer trophies used to sit. Now it felt like a prison cell in my own home. Outside, an engine started. I rolled to the window and watched Christopher's Tesla glide down the driveway I'd poured and finished myself 25 years ago. Red taillights disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness. 6:30 a.m. sharp. His gym routine, as predictable as sunrise. He'd be gone 2 hours. I needed those 2 hours. I dressed quietly and moved through the house like a ghost haunting his own life. No coffee brewing yet, no lights except the blue glow from Christopher's multiple computer screens in the living room. Just gray stillness before sunrise and the weight of 30 years of memories, pressing down on me. When I reached the master bedroom, my bedroom, the one I'd shared with Patricia for 28 years before cancer took her, I stopped. My hand hovered near the door, remembering all the mornings I'd kissed her goodbye before heading to job sites, all the evenings we'd planned our retirement in this very room. I knocked softly. "Dad?" Michelle's voice came muffled and sleepy. "What time is it? We need to talk before Christopher gets back." A long pause. I could hear her shifting in bed, probably checking her phone. "Give me a minute." I waited in the hallway, noticing details that had been slowly disappearing over the past year. My architectural license no longer hung on the wall, the one I'd earned after night school while working construction during the day. My collection of vintage tool catalogs was gone from the hallway bookshelf. In their place, Christopher's business books with titles like Digital Nomad Millionaire and Passive Income Secrets. The bedroom door opened. Michelle stood there in pajamas that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a month. Arms crossed, eyes still puffy from sleep. "Kitchen," she said. She made coffee while I sat at the table, watching her move through motions as automatic as breathing. Pour the water, measure the grounds, press the button. Anything to avoid looking at me directly. "Michelle, about last night." "Dad, please, it's too early for drama." Drama, like standing up for myself in my own house, was some kind of performance. When would be a good time to discuss my own house then? She turned from the coffee maker, her face carrying that exasperated expression I remembered from her teenage years. That's not how Christopher meant it. How did he mean it then? Because it sounded like an eviction notice to me. "Dad, you have to understand our situation. We have real expenses. Christopher's building his brand, but startup costs are huge. This house costs us $200 a month between the mortgage, utilities, insurance, and maintenance." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. When had she learned to talk like a business presentation? When had my daughter become someone who spoke in terms of building brands and startup costs? Charging your father rent to live in the house he built with his own hands. "You're living in our space, Dad. We're the ones maintaining everything now, paying for upgrades, making improvements. We put in that smart home system, renovated the guest bathroom, upgraded the kitchen appliances. Improvements I never asked for. A smart home system that made me feel stupid every time I tried to turn on a light. Kitchen appliances so complicated they came with instruction manuals thicker than building codes. This property has my name on the deed," I said carefully, keeping my voice level. "Legally, yes. But if you're not happy with the arrangement, you can always find your own place. Something smaller, easier to manage." She sat across from me, cradling her mug like armor. "This house is really too big for one person anyway. You'd probably be happier somewhere with less upkeep." The suggestion hung between us like smoke from a house fire. They wanted me gone, not just paying rent, gone entirely. I fell silent, memory pulling me backward 3 years. This same kitchen table, Michelle sitting where she sat now, but crying then, her face red and desperate. Christopher beside her, looking defeated. "Dad, we lost our lease. The landlord's selling the building and we have 30 days to get out. We don't have anywhere to go, and rental deposits in Tampa are insane now." Her voice had been breaking, desperate. "Please, just temporarily. We'll help you get through losing Mom. We'll take care of everything." I'd still been raw from Patricia's funeral, moving through days like walking underwater. Everything hurt. Everything reminded me of what I'd lost. "Of course," I'd said without hesitation. "This is your home too. Stay as long as you need." "Thank you, Daddy. We'll make it up to you. We'll help with the house, with everything. We're family. Family. Temporarily." Both words now felt like lies designed to get what they wanted. I looked at my daughter across the table. The same daughter, but different somehow. Harder. When had helping me through grief become owning me? When had temporarily become permanent occupation? "Dad, are you okay?" "You look pale." "I'm fine." I straightened, feeling something crystallize inside me. A decision forming like concrete setting in a mold. "You're right, Michelle. We need to make this official." Relief flooded her face like sunrise. "So you'll pay the rent?" "Yes. Tone $200 monthly, starting immediately." "Good. I really think this is better for everyone. More structured, you know?" I pulled out my wallet, the one Patricia had given me for our 25th anniversary. I'd stopped at the ATM during my sleepless wandering the night before, drawing from savings I'd built over 4 decades of honest work. Counted out bills. Crisp 20s and 50s, fresh from the bank. I laid them on the counter between us, one at a time. 60 bills total. Michelle reached for the money eagerly. I didn't move my hand away immediately. For a brief moment, we both touched it, and I felt the weight of what we were destroying. "Receipt," I said quietly. Her brow furrowed. "What?" "I'll need a receipt for my records. Tax purposes." "Dad, we're family. This isn't a real landlord situation. Then this should be no problem. She stared at me, searching my face for something she couldn't quite identify. Whatever she found there made her pull a notepad from the junk drawer, the same drawer where I used to keep my measuring tape and pencil stub for quick calculations. Her hand shook slightly as she wrote, "Received $1,200. Rent for July 2025. She dated it, signed it, pushed it across the table like evidence of a crime. I picked up the receipt, folded it carefully, and slipped it into my wallet behind my driver's license. Documentation, evidence, the first piece of a plan that was already forming in my mind. Michelle gathered the bills, no longer meeting my eyes. I should get ready. Christopher will be back soon. Of course. I watched her leave, then sat alone in my kitchen, listening to the house settle around me. These walls I'd framed, this foundation I'd helped pour, these rooms where I'd planned to grow old with Patricia. Now they felt like a prison with a $1,200 monthly fee. The library's law section was quieter than I expected for a Tuesday afternoon. I'd been coming here every day since paying that first rent, filling notebooks with research that no one at home suspected existed. That morning, Christopher had barely looked up from his phone when I mentioned leaving. "Library again, Ted? You're becoming quite the scholar in your old age." "Just keeping my mind sharp," I'd replied, forcing a smile. "Don't forget the house rules," he'd said, scrolling through his social media metrics. "Back by 6 if you want dinner. Michelle's making that quinoa salad. House rules. In my own house. Rules about when I could eat, when I could use common areas, when I needed to give advance notice for guests I'd never had anymore anyway." Now I stood before towering shelves of Florida legal codes, my reading glasses perched on my nose, a fresh notebook open beside my laptop. Patricia had always said, knowledge was like building a house. You needed to lay a solid foundation before putting up the walls. I pulled volumes on property law, real estate transactions, tenant rights, and spread them across a corner table. This was familiar territory, the precision of research, the satisfaction of finding solutions in complexity. As a contractor who'd become an architect, I'd spent decades turning problems into blueprints. 2 hours deep in statutes, I discovered something called a rent-back agreement. Sellers could remain in their property for 30 to 60 days after closing while new owners waited to take possession. My pen stopped moving across the page. This was it. A legal way to sell the house while maintaining occupancy, giving me time to plan my exit while protecting the sale from interference. Looking for something specific? I glanced up. A woman stood nearby, silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. A volunteer badge was clipped to her cardigan, early 60s, with the confident bearing of someone who'd spent her life helping people find answers. "Florida property law," I managed. "Sales with delayed occupancy. Rent-back provisions. That's section 346.7. She moved through the stacks with practiced efficiency, pulling exactly the volume I needed. "Legal research can be tricky if you don't know the indexing system. I appreciate the help. Haven't been here since my wife passed. I'm sorry for your loss." She set the book before me, and I noticed her hands, steady, capable, wearing only a simple wedding band on her right hand. "I'm Katherine Johnson. Most folks call me Kate. I volunteer here Tuesdays and Thursdays. Ted Williams." She started to leave, then paused, studying my face with gentle concern. "Forgive me for saying so, but you seem troubled. Are you all right?" The unexpected kindness hit me like a hammer to the chest. When was the last time someone had asked how I was doing and actually waited for an answer? Just working through some family complications. Those are often the hardest kind. Family can love us and hurt us in ways strangers never could. That's exactly right. Her expression held understanding without judgment. "Well, whatever you're facing, knowledge is usually a good first step. I'll leave you to your research." I watched her walk away, then dove into the rent-back statutes. Florida allowed up to 60 days maximum. Required written agreement, legally binding. The seller maintained all ownership rights until final closing. New owners couldn't take possession early without consent. My notes grew detailed. Find discreet real estate attorney. Identify buyers who accept rent-back terms. Document everything. Maintain absolute secrecy. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not a burden, not a tenant in my own home, but a man with skills and intelligence, capable of solving problems. The library's closing announcement startled me from concentration. I gathered materials, checked out 3 legal reference books using my library card, still valid after all these years, unlike my status in my own house. Kate was at the checkout desk, efficiently processing returns. Found what you needed? I think I found a path forward. That's wonderful. Sometimes we just need to understand our options. I hesitated at the counter, this woman who'd shown me more kindness in 10 minutes than I'd received at home in months. Thank you, really. Something passed between us. Recognition, maybe. Two people who understood loss, who knew what it meant to rebuild after everything familiar disappeared. Ted, she said as I turned to leave, I walk the Riverwalk most mornings around 8, near the convention center. The sunrise over the bay helps me think clearly. A moment of possibility, an invitation wrapped in casual conversation. I might see you there tomorrow then. I'm an early riser myself. Her smile was warm, genuine. I'll look for you. Walking to my car, I felt something shift inside me, the first crack in the wall of resignation I'd built around myself. Knowledge was power. Planning was hope. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I'd believed. 3 weeks later, I sat in Jonathan Mitchell's downtown Tampa office, watching him review the closing documents one final time. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Hillsborough River sparkled in afternoon sunlight, and I could see the convention center where Kate and I had been meeting for morning walks. "This is it, Ted," Mitchell said, sliding the papers across his mahogany desk. "Once you sign, the house transfers to the Foster family. $750,000 minus closing costs and commissions. You'll net $7,000 and $18,000. I picked up the pen, feeling its weight. Each signature would carry 30 years of history, dreams built with Patricia, memories carved into every board and beam. But the last 2 years had poisoned what took decades to create. The title company representative appeared on the video screen. All documents executed. Funds will transfer within the hour. "And the occupancy agreement?" Mitchell asked. "Filed and recorded. Mr. Williams has occupancy through October 15th. The Foster family understands the 60-day rent-back arrangement. I'd met Nicholas Foster and Rebecca Davis 3 days ago when Christopher and Michelle were in Orlando for another one of Christopher's business conferences. Trips I'd started encouraging and partially funding to get them out of the house. The Fosters were perfect buyers. Nick, a structural engineer, had walked through my house with genuine appreciation, running his hands along load-bearing beams and asking intelligent questions about the foundation work. Rebecca loved the kitchen layout and natural light. Their 2 teenage sons had immediately claimed bedrooms and started planning their room setups. "Mr. Williams," Nick had said, "this house was built with real craftsmanship. You don't see this attention to detail anymore." "I'll be out by August 25th, I told Mitchell now, 10 days from today. After the title representative disconnected, Mitchell leaned forward. "Ted, are you ready for this? The eviction notice goes out the day after you leave. Your daughter and son-in-law will have exactly 30 days to vacate. August 26th gives them proper legal notice. September 25th deadline. They'll figure it out. And if they don't? Then the Foster family files for eviction with Hillsborough County. Sheriff serves the papers. Trust me, they'll leave." My phone buzzed. Bank notification, $718,000 deposited. 40 years of work converted to freedom. "It's done," I said. August 25th arrived with the kind of clear Florida morning that made you remember why people moved here. I woke before dawn in my nearly empty bedroom, listening to the house breathe around me one last time. Over the past week, I'd been systematically removing my belongings in small loads they hadn't noticed. My tools, my fishing gear, the photo albums Patricia had organized so carefully. Everything that mattered was already in my new apartment across town, or safely stored with Kate. I dressed quietly and made my final trips to the car. Christopher and Michelle slept soundly in the master bedroom, unaware this was their last morning believing the house belonged to them. I'd written the note 3 days ago, kept it simple and factual. "Michelle and Christopher, I fulfilled your requirement. You told me to pay rent or find another place. I found another place. Consider this my move-out notice. Think about your actions and how you treated me in my own home. Ted." I placed the envelope prominently on the kitchen table where they'd see it immediately. Next to it, I set my house keys, front door, back door, garage. Keys I'd held for 3 decades, now surrendered by choice rather than force. One final walk through the rooms. Living room where Christopher's equipment dominated my former reading corner. Kitchen where they'd charged me rent to cook. Dining room where Christopher had delivered his ultimatum. Master bedroom door closed. Them sleeping in the space Patricia and I had shared for 28 years. 6:15 a.m. I opened the front door, stepped out, and closed it quietly behind me. Didn't lock it. Not my responsibility anymore. Drove toward my new life as sunrise painted Tampa Bay gold and crimson. 8:30 a.m. Michelle woke first, wandered to the kitchen in pajamas, saw the envelope, read the note once, twice, still not comprehending. "Christopher! Christopher!" He stumbled out, confused, until she handed him the note. They rushed to my bedroom. Empty. Closet empty. Everything personal gone. "When did he move all this stuff?" Michelle whispered. "He's been organizing for weeks," Christopher realized. He was packing right under our noses. First reaction was indignation. How dare he just leave without discussion? This is so immature. Christopher's face hardened with satisfaction. Good riddance. Now we have the whole house to ourselves. Next morning, August 26th, Christopher retrieved the mail, found the certified letter from Patterson and Associates. He read it aloud, voice cracking. Notification of property sale and termination of occupancy rights. The property was sold by legal owner Theodore Williams to Nicholas Foster and Rebecca Davis on August 15, 2025. As you are not legal tenants or owners, you must vacate by September 25, 2025. Stunned silence. "This can't be legal," Michelle whispered. Christopher's frantic calls to attorneys confirmed their worst fears. Theodore Williams was sole owner. Sale is legal and binding. You have no claim. Begin looking for housing immediately. The reality crashed down. No lease, no legal standing, no money for deposits or moving costs. Christopher's business had generated more expenses than income. They were trapped. 3 months later, I sat on Kate's porch watching sunset paint Tampa Bay in shades of amber. We'd been living together since September, both ready for companionship after years of loneliness. My workshop was set up in her garage now, my tools finally organized how I wanted them. The fishing gear Christopher had disdained now filled a dedicated closet. Kate had even helped me restore my father's hand planes, understanding their sentimental value. The phone rang. Unknown number. "Dad?" Michelle's voice, uncertain and smaller than I remembered. "Hello, Michelle. I wanted to let you know. Christopher and I separated last month. He blamed me for everything, said I should have controlled you better." I stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I'm in a studio apartment downtown now. It's small, but it's mine. I got a job at a veterinary clinic. Remember how I always loved animals? I forgot about that dream somewhere along the way." "Honest work is good for the soul," I said. "Dad, I've had time to think. Really think about what we did. You built that house with your hands, raised me there, lost Mom there, and we treated you like an inconvenience." Tears in her voice now. "I understand why you did it. I finally understand." "I'm glad you do, Michelle. Is there any chance we could have coffee sometime? I don't expect forgiveness. I just miss my father." I looked at Kate, who nodded encouragingly. "Maybe we could start there." "Coffee, see how it goes." "Really? You'd be willing to try?" "People can change, Michelle. Sometimes they have to lose everything first to remember who they really are." After I hung up, Kate took my hand. "Think she's learned her lesson?" "Maybe. Time will tell." "But you know what the best part is?" "What's that?" "I didn't just get my money back, I got my life back, and I got you." We sat in comfortable silence as stars appeared over Tampa Bay. Somewhere across town, the Foster family was probably having dinner in the house I built, creating new memories in rooms I designed. Christopher was learning what it felt like to start over with nothing but his digital marketing expertise. And Michelle was working with animals again, remembering dreams she'd abandoned for someone else's vision of success. Justice served cold, with a side of new beginnings and second chances for those willing to earn them. The end.